I'd like to call tonight's meeting, Tuesday, March 26, 2024, of the Pittsburgh City Commission to order. If everyone would please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Cody McCulley? Cody here? Cody. Minister from, Youth Minister from Countryside Christian, if you would please lead us in an invocation.
Can I stand here?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Father God, thank you so much for this opportunity for tonight, for these people to get together. Lord, just lead the direction, give wisdom, insight, and clarity, and this is the direction of this town, Lord, and just thank you for everything that you do for our lives. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. All right, I've got several things to take care of before we get started with public input. First, I'd like to recognize a couple of people, three people tonight for the Pittsburgh Positive Recognition. Susie Vitoric, if you would please come forward. Susie, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't been through Starbucks and had this lady make your day every single time you go through there, you need to go through there because Susie is an inspiration to all of us. She always makes you, I don't know if anybody's ever driven away from there without feeling better about themselves. She has a knack to be positive. She is Miss Pittsburgh Positive. So Susie, thank you for all you do, and I know you have a lot of activities in the community and you volunteer for a lot of boards, but more than anything, thank you for having your sparkling personality.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And next, I'll have you guys have these two gentlemen come up together, Matt O'Malley and Brad Stroud. If you can come forward, please. Brad here. Matt and Brad saw a need, identified a need at Lakeside Park, correct, for adult exercise equipment. Makes great sense. It's a perfect place that we all take our children when they're younger. Why not, take advantage of having some activities there for the adults as well. So they identified that need, recognized, found funding and made it happen, made it come to a reality. So we have these two gentlemen to thank for making Lakeside Park a better, more friendly place for adults. It's already been a great place for children for many years, but it's great now for harder and harder for us to find a reason not to exercise. So thank you guys very much. Thank you. And I have a proclamation for young children. If everyone here for this proclamation come forward, please. This is the week of the young child, so a lot of folks involved in this, and I'd like to take time to read through this proclamation. If you'll bear with me. From the Office of the Mayor, proclamation: whereas all young children deserve quality early learning environments that support them as capable and competent lifelong learners, and whereas young children need skilled, educated, competent, consistent, and compensated early childhood educators, and whereas early childhood education promotes the intellectual, emotional, and physical development of children, which in turn prepares them to be responsible and contributing members of our society, and whereas high-quality early childhood education depends on high-quality childhood educators who ensure that children supported by families have the early experiences that they need for a strong foundation, and whereas early childhood professionals and others who make a difference in the lives of young children in Pittsburgh deserve thanks and recognition, and whereas we celebrate the 53rd anniversary of the Week of the Young Child, so that we can continue to recognize and advance the early childhood education profession. Now, therefore, I, Stu Hike, Mayor of Pittsburgh, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 6th to April 12th, 2024 as the Week of the Young Child, and recognize that the future of our community and state depends on the quality of our early childhood experiences provided to our young children today. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to move into public input at this point. If anybody has any public input, please come forward. Okay, seeing no one, we'll close public input and move into the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything to pull off? I think we already asked, so. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Brooks?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
McNay?
Yes.
Munsell?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
All right, consent agenda is approved. Special presentations. Item A, Neighborhood Advisory Council, the NAC Annual Report. Members of the Neighborhood Advisory Council will present their annual report.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much again for supporting the Neighborhood Advisory Council, or the NAC that we call it. We have, by ordinance, need to do our annual report in March. So we've had 2 meetings. So we are going to report on some goals and some things that we've achieved so far with our chair this evening. But I also wanted to introduce, you all know Sarah Runyon, who was our PIM, but she is now the Community Development Specialist. So she'll be working with me on all events and development and things like that, but she's also going to be the board liaison for the Neighborhood Advisory Council. So she'll have a lot to do, but she'll be the main point of contact there along with myself. So I wanted to introduce Sarah, and then she will take over from here. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As Kim mentioned, I'm serving as the city's liaison to the Neighborhood Advisory Council. I've had the pleasure of getting to know the 11 community members and getting their feedback on efforts to improve neighborhoods. We have an exceptional group of volunteers that care deeply about their neighborhoods and making a positive difference. And they've only met twice since February, so keep that in mind. But in those 2 meetings, they've been incredibly positive and incredibly productive. And they've identified some future goals that they'd like to share with you tonight, along with some accomplishments to share with you. So I'm going to introduce Marnie Shipper, who is the chair of the Neighborhood Advisory Council, and she's going to come up and help us with a short presentation to keep you up to speed on what they're up to. Thank you. Take it away, Marnie.
Hi, I'm Marnie Shipper. I live on Twin Lakes in the southeast quadrant, and as both Kim and Sarah have mentioned, we've met twice, so I'm kind of going to use today just to talk a little bit about who we are, what we hope to accomplish, and then maybe some opportunities for neighbors, the community, to get involved. So basically, NAC started from Spruce Up Pittsburgh. It was a council of citizens that were created to kind of help neighbors with access both public and private resources, help to provide leadership, and to encourage community within the neighborhoods. We would like to be the voice of all of the neighborhoods. We would like to form a community where we help people, where we help beautify the community, and just kind of bring people together. There's 12 of us. Well, actually, there's 11 right now, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And we represent the 4 quadrants. In the South Quadrant, we have Bob Gilmore, Sarah Watts. In the Northeast Quadrant, we have John Lair, Lacey O'Malley, Ken Ward, Ryan Williams. Southeast Quadrant is Bo Bowman, Mark Newbold, me, and Kristen Thomas. And then in the Northwest Quadrant, we have PJ Graham, and we also have a vacancy. We have applications back behind me on that table over there, as well as on the NAC page, on the city council, on the city page, and the social media as well. We have announcements that we're looking for another person for the Northwest Quadrant. So far, excuse me, we've appointed officers. Me, I'm the chair. The vice chair is Lacey O'Malley, and then Bo Bowman is our note taker. We've adopted our bylaws, created an official logo, and we're working on getting our goals together. The biggest thing we're doing right now is our neighborhood map, and I'll talk about that in a second. Our goals are basically, like I said, to kind of educate our neighbors about city policies, services, help provide resources, help connect them with resources. We'd like to build community awareness, community engagement, kind of just get neighborhoods working together and you know, keeping the neighborhood beautiful and just kind of, again, growing community within the neighborhoods. We're establishing a neighborhood map that's going to kind of help with everybody knowing, okay, I'm in this neighborhood, and we'll be able to, you know, make announcements or plan events and have a neighborhood, you know, a name for the neighborhood that everyone can relate to and understand and know exactly what you're talking about when you mention that particular neighborhood. We also want to work with some of the other boards and help to support policy changes, you know, within the community. As I mentioned, the neighborhood map, it's back there as well. We're planning on going to events like Earth Walk and Art Walk, and Earth Day and Art Walk, and having people look at the maps and kind of give us their opinions and their input. We're also doing a survey that we're launching probably within the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks at the most, where people will be able to go in, log into the neighborhoods, see, you know, where they are, and make their contribution. Do they think this is a good name? Would they like this name to be? Would they like it to be this? We kind of think that getting people involved in the naming of the neighborhoods will help start the community involvement. So that's basically it. We want everyone to come to meetings. We would love to have volunteers. We'd love to, again, it's about getting the community together. It's about getting neighbors together, neighbors helping neighbors, and just everyone caring for Pittsburgh and doing what they can do.
I have a question. Are you planning at these events, maybe try to educate the people that there are ordinances that we have concerning their property and educate them on what ordinance maybe they are in violation of?
That's part of it. We want to help people find resources for, you know, if they need help with the violations. It's about, again, education is a huge part of what we want to do. We first think that we need to get the word out of who we are and get people involved in understanding that, hey, there's the NAC out there and we want to help.
The map that you just showed on the website, can you blow it up so you can read the names? Because I was looking really hard and I couldn't read them.
Yeah, and Sarah, you can answer that.
Are you
for
able
sure.
to blow it up on the website?
It'll be available and it'll be scalable, so you can
okay.
zoom in on your neighborhood, you can find where you are. You can actually type in your address and it'll tell you what neighborhood you're in, so it's not difficult to find. And that'll be a process that we'll go through next week. We have our next meeting, which is April 3rd, on Wednesday, Memorial Auditorium at noon. And the NAC members are actually going to do a little, what do you call it? A beta test to see how the map works and the functionality of it. And then we'll launch it on the website and we'll get it out to the public in various forms so that they can dive in and they can learn a little bit more about it.
It'll be under your committee, the map?
We'll have it in multiple places, but yes, it will be on the website that's on the slide there, that pitks.org/NAC. And we'll have it in various other forms as well,
Okay.
so people can look at that.
Thanks.
Great job. Two meetings, you said?
2 meetings.
2 meetings.
It's a lot to report, 2 meetings. Well done.
See you next year.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys, and everybody that's serving on the committee, and just a special thanks again to Commissioner Sigley for taking that on and getting that started under his term last year as mayor. So it's exciting to see what they can come up with in the next coming years, months, and weeks. All right, item B, Sustainability Advisory Committee, SAC Waste Management Recommendation. Members of the Sustainability Advisory Committee will present a recommendation regarding solid waste management in Pittsburgh.
Thank you. My name's Denise Fitzpatrick, and we are enthusiastic to be here this evening and to present this proposal that you have in front of you, I think, to create a municipal utility to manage solid waste in Pittsburgh. I do want to recognize the other members of the committee. Dr. Jim Triplett is here. Some of us have green shirts on, but not everyone. Andrew Willett, Tucker Jessup, Nancy Scott, and Elliot Rowland. I think we're only missing one, but what a great group of people who have really worked hard on this. So I wanted to recognize them. Do you want to say anything first?
No,
Okay.
this is your show.
All right. Well, after Darren and Jay asked us to study this issue and make a recommendation, the entire committee met several weeks in a row. And I do want to emphasize that because I really thought it might be just a couple of us, that maybe a subcommittee that was interested and would report back, but everyone was really interested in following up and meeting. So we all met weekly for several weeks in February and into March to think about this. We researched what some other cities in Kansas were doing. And what we found is we really liked what was happening in cities that did have a public utility, a municipal utility for solid waste. The difference was they could provide benefits for the citizens because the goal was services and not profit. You know, it is a profitable business to collect trash, but it seems like when the utilities are involved, then that money can come back and provide other services for the residents. We also spent time looking at waste stream of everything from e-waste, the household trash, hazardous waste, to recycling, to see where it was going, to see what was going well, and maybe where we needed to improve. Our goal is really to have Pittsburgh be a cleaner, healthier, and more environmentally safe community. So we believe this recommendation will provide a lot of benefits for the people of Pittsburgh, and I want to share some of what we thought would be a benefit of having a public utility. One is more efficient collection routes that would reduce traffic, noise, and road wear. I know in my neighborhood, on trash morning, just last week, there were 2 different trucks going 2 directions on the same block because they have different customers, which was just a lot of commotion in the neighborhood. Municipal oversight to enforce what we already have a mandated collection regulation would be improved. Currently, it's hard to enforce trash and safety issues because of lack of information from private haulers and residents about their services. So with a city utility, residents would know who to call, who's responsible, and that seems like a real advantage to us. This would result in safer and cleaner neighborhoods. When we have unreliable trash service, that leads to overflowing trash bins, spilt trash bins, and really messy looking areas of our city. Bulky items like mattresses and broken furniture we've all seen in yards for weeks at a time. And again, who's responsible for that? So some of these expanded services, such as bulky item pickup, yard waste collection, and maybe eventually curbside recycling would become possible with revenue that would be generated for a similar fee to what citizens pay now for only trash pickup. So we weren't thinking that, and we didn't find that Pittsburgh pays any more than most other cities, but we don't get much for our money. All we get is trash pickup. And so we just wanted more. So there is currently a bulky or large item not pickup, but drop-off service available. But a lot of residents don't have any way to get those bulky items down there. So they stay in the yard or they just don't get picked up. So if we had a scheduled, organized means of collections of these items, that would be a great benefit. We're not suggesting weekly pickup, but maybe a system where residents could schedule a pickup when they needed something, and there would have to be some guidelines with that, but we really thought that was feasible. We also know that yard waste builds up in neighborhoods. A lot of cities have yard waste and stick pickup available. Leaves get blown to the street. They clog our storm water drains, and it just looks bad. So we discussed that maybe this would make it possible to even have a spring and fall leaf collection, that the city would have the equipment to do that, which would really improve the appearance of our city. Once these city routes are established, we think curbside recycling could be added, which would significantly reduce the amount of solid waste going to our landfill. The City Commission has already recognized and committed with the county to supporting the work of the Southeast Kansas Recycling Center. And this revenue generated from a citywide utility could enable the recycling center to honestly just continue to exist, is kind of where we are. So we learned by looking at other communities that there's just endless variations on the details of a utility. We talked about some of them, but we know this is just a first step. But we're confident that our city management and employees could find solutions that would work for us. Our unanimous recommendation is to create a municipal waste management utility. And I don't want to call it a municipal trash pickup, because waste management is so much more than that. And that would be our goal. So I want to thank you for allowing us to participate in this conversation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about our discussions or what we learned, and anxious to hear what you think. Thank you.
Denise, what other cities did you look at?
We looked, the ones I remember, we looked at Leavenworth, Osawatomie, Lawrence, Emporia, Iola, Chanute, so, Webb City. Quite a few, yeah. Mostly through their websites, just what they were doing and what was available. Chad Mishmash is also on our committee, and he wasn't able to come tonight, but he actually did some links for us and found those, so.
So do you feel that it's an enforcement issue overall? Because there are regulations already in place about trash and mattresses and brush and everything. So is it an enforcement issue?
Well, as I said, I think sometimes enforcement is difficult because we don't know, if it's trash laying around the yard, do they not have trash service? Is it the hauler's not coming? I know, and part of it was when we had bad weather, but our trash didn't get picked up for 2 weeks. We had trash service, but it didn't get picked up for 2 weeks, so.
It could be enforcement, it could be lack of paying the trash bill.
Right.
It could be laziness also.
Right?
That's why I wondered if it all falls back on enforcement.
I think to me, it just seems simpler if we know the city's responsible. I know who to call. I'm going to call the city and trash is not being picked up, or, and the city would know who has trash service and who doesn't, this way.
So only water, are you only talking people with water accounts would be offered this service, or is people going to have a choice? Or is it going to be mandatory?
Well, it's mandatory now, and we would.
Well, no, trash service I know is mandatory, but I meant, there's a lot of people in the past, and I know things are different now, but they love their trash people. And if you don't have a problem, there's those people that don't understand. But then the one that I'm hearing about that has the problem is the one that's not picking up. And I'm just wondering, are they spoiling it for the rest of? Because I know the trash hauler I have, I mean, other than maybe having a truck in the way of a huge container one time, they pick up regularly and we have no problems with it. So I'm wanting to know more about it.
Yeah, and Cheryl, I agree. There's a lot of people that had no problem with their trash service right now. We have heard from people who do have problems. I mean, I will say that.
And I think we all know that it's the same company that we're hearing the problems.
But I think it'd just be easier to know who to call and to share this responsibility of, just more consistency across the city. And the things like having multiple trucks and multiple wear on the roads, I think we're just going to get more because those trash haulers that we have, their goal is to make a profit, understandably, but we just really felt like for that same revenue, that could come back and we could get more service than what we're getting right now.
It seemed like when we sat down with the committees, Jay and I sat quietly in most of the committee, and Jay wrote on the whiteboard and I watched him. But it seemed like, to your question, there is an accountability issue for sure with residential and commercial trash pickup, but there's also nothing beyond residential and commercial trash pickup if we aren't in the utility business. And that's the thing that the committee, I thought, did a really good job of explaining, because they kind of look at the whole waste stream overall, white goods, limbs, recyclables. And right now, you're simply talking about, for a fee, you get your trash removed. And I think that's great. And it's great that we have pretty responsible haulers in some cases that do a good job, but it's limited at that. And so if the opportunity was there for the same amount of money to have the city be more accountable to everybody, not just the people that have, in your words, the one bad hauler or whatever we're calling them, I get what you're saying. But the opportunity to do more with that utility and maybe take on some limbs and take on some assistance for recyclables, if we could do that, and the bulky pickups. That's where, for Jay and I, we're kind of like, wow, that'd be, when you talk about cleaning up, sprucing up Pittsburgh, those are the kind of things we don't have the ability to do at all right now.
To your point, Denise, it's also a matter, we don't have the tools to hold people accountable. We don't know who has trash and who does not. And this would at least give us the ability to hold people accountable and to hold ourselves accountable.
But wouldn't, not knowing who has trash, it would be obvious by the side of things piled up in carports or garages, and that would be falling under codes enforcement also, wouldn't it? And that's already on our books.
But how many codes enforcement?
Well, we have 3 right now,
I know,
so,
but
I
that's-
mean,
Well, just quickly, real quickly, we've had lots of instances where people just put it all in the garage, you can't tell, and it just gets to be a problem. So it is difficult, and sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't.
Well, I think that if you have a utility that picks up trash, and you put the trash out front, that utility is gonna pick it up. If you put your sticks and your, whatever else you've got out there, at some point, we're gonna pick it up, whether it's bulky items or whatever. If you put stuff in your garage, it becomes a rat's mess, and you pile it up, that becomes a code enforcement thing, not a trash thing. So at that point, the code guy goes and looks at it and says, you got a rat's mess here, and there are rats running around, and stinks to high heaven, you violated a code. And then you enforce that code. But as far as trash is concerned, we need to pick up trash. There's trash sitting all over this city that's not picked up at all on time. And we got sticks piled up next to houses for years that need to be taken care of. Again, a codes thing, because that's a fire hazard. We need a little bit more emphasis on picking up trash and getting the city cleaned up.
do we have enough teeth in the enforcement, though?
We-
That's the
don't
thing.
We have the
Well,
ordinances.
the only way to enforce it, as Dr. Sigley says, is through the codes enforcement, right? You're familiar with that process, right? And that just takes a long time. I mean, we have to serve notice to them, that's 10 days, right? Then they may go to court, they may get extended for another 30 days. So that has a big overhead, codes enforcement has a big overhead problem associated with it. Whereas trash service, we can pick it up right away.
So the ticket writing, like we do for parking on parquets, sidewalks and that, it's an automatic ticket right off. But we had a thing on TV or in the newspaper that said, this is an ordinance that we passed and we're gonna move ahead with that, so just everybody be aware. So I don't understand the difference though, because they know that they're responsible for having trash service. Just like they're responsible for taking the dumpster from the curb and putting it back by the house or behind the house. And again, it falls on the property owner, the homeowner, whatever, and I think pride is one thing that we need to probably step up a little on, but it is hard too whenever you have theft of services, where people are putting trash in something that's not theirs, or I've had that happen to me multiple times, so I'm wondering about the enforcement, if we're doing enough about the enforcement.
Enforcement of exactly what? The trash not getting picked up, or the
No,
trash
not-
being littered all
Well,
over
like
the yard?
mattresses and things that, we all have those neighborhoods or places we've seen that they have been for years, big brush piles in town when it's against the rules. I just wish that the enforcement had either more teeth in it, or it shouldn't be so complicated that it takes an act of Congress to get one thing done and taken care of.
Well, we had this discussion,
With the enforcement, too, if the city is billing it out and the city is in charge of all of that, like we do on water bills, we could always give them a penalty for them not having their trash ready to pick up, or the excessive trash in the alley, or if they have a mess around their house. So our codes people could technically go identify that and then put it back on us to charge that late fee. But this is just the beginning steps to kind of introduce it to you guys, but that can all be written in the policy when we go to establish this requirement of trash service. And then we can charge a penalty for excessive trash or their house being a mess, and then we send a codes person out even if our trash haulers see that, because now we're going by every residence at least once a week to kind of see what they have in trash wise. So technically even our trash hauler could be like, there's an excessive amount of trash here, it's really dirty. Either codes can charge them or we could charge them a penalty based on the accumulation of trash. So.
Well, we had this discussion 10 years ago, before I got on the commission, about a city utility in the trash business. We had meetings, we had a committee. They decided that the best option was for residents, citizens, to keep who they had. But we did track who they had. It was an ordinance that every resident have trash service. So every hauler monthly had to turn their list into the city and see who the hauler was. That went on for I don't know how long, for several months. They kept track of it. My hauler at the time kept doing it without knowledge that the city decided to stop that. I don't know why they stopped it, because you knew you had a trash hauler, the city knew you had a trash hauler, you had to say who it was. And if they moved or had another hauler, then the other hauler had to say, hey, we got our person down. So anyway, that went away. So, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not against this, but there's some things that's been said that is just not correct. I mean, there was tracking of who had trash service and who
By the
didn't.
way, your trash hauler you're talking about was the only one who reported.
I know, but they all were supposed to, Jay.
Yes, that's.
And you know, who do we put that on? That's something the city should have maybe checked into. But, you know, past that fact, I'm thinking.
Wait a minute. So to clarify that.
They were supposed to send a letter of their customers to the city. Darren.
We had this whole conversation is about accountability of who's gonna pick this up.
Right.
If you have a trash hauler that will not report to you who their customers are and when they're picking up those customers, the city has we spent months trying to get that information. So it's not, you can't just say, well, it's on the city, because that's part of the argument today is we don't have any power over these haulers to make them do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where this rests.
But
We can't get them to pick up the trash if they don't want to. We can't regulate what they charge. We can't even get them on the phone to have a discussion about their billing practices when people call us. And so to look back 10 years and say, well, we didn't do a good job 10 years ago, they were just as non-responsive 10 years ago. Nothing has changed. And Jay, I know, was tasked with going through with IT, trying to rectify the list of all the customers in town and see who had trash service. But if the trash companies don't tell you who their customers are, there's no way to verify who has trash.
Yeah.
So I just want to be real clear on that. We didn't drop the ball. We don't have any leverage on them if they don't want to give us their information, Commissioner.
Well, I thought from that committee, all the haulers was there and they knew what their responsibility was. Evidently,
They may have known.
we had one hauler that followed the rules. And it sounds like we have one hauler now that doesn't follow the rules. You know, I have a hauler that picks up every week. If it's Christmas, they pick up the day before, day after. We have haulers, I understand, I've had numerous complaints about a certain hauler that doesn't do that. And I'm reading in here, extra bags that's around the trash can, corporate haulers don't pick, mine does. I know other ones don't. But, you know, when you don't have it in a container, it gets tore open by animals and people. I've seen people going through people's trash, scattering all over, trying to get what they want out of it. So, you know, like I said, I'm not against the idea of city providing this utility. I think we need to do more than just come up with some recommendation. We need to have meetings with citizens to find out what their thoughts are.
I think the thing we need to remember too, Chuck, is that if we continue with the status quo, it doesn't address the recycling issue,
Well, that's the
bulk-
next thing I'm
the
going-
bulk, the bulk items, the and if we were to make it a municipal waste management, you know, we're talking like Denise said, you know, we're looking at the same kind of price, you know, actually less money, $20 would be less than what I'm paying currently. But encompassing all, you know, additional items, like the dishwasher that quits working that somebody has nothing to do with, an elderly person that doesn't have a truck that can't take it to the recycle center. We would be able to address that with a city waste management solution. So I think the status quo, continuing down that path is maybe it's time to take a look at that for sure, is changing that. And I think it's very intriguing, the possibility of what your committee unanimously approved, would be a good idea. I think it's worth a very closer look.
So Jay, what would the next steps be?
Well, obviously, what was put in front of you was just a recommendation to pursue further. We would have to completely cost out the whole thing. We'd have to put a plan together.
Sure.
There's a lot of work that would have to be done before we could stand up a utility of this nature. But it would be.
Phase one, all we're talking about is city running a trash service as a utility. We're not talking about recycling, because what I see in there, recycling, I'm not in favor of that, the cost of that cost. So that will come later. I think if the city gets into the trash business and makes the kind of money they're saying, then we ought to look into running the recycle center or one on our own. That's my thoughts.
So are you looking for consensus or a vote, or what do you need?
I think so. I mean,
I think, well, the first thing I think we should do is thank the committee.
Yes.
Because this is not an easy lift, and they didn't go about it haphazardly. I mean, literally, they all took off, and it was like they were shot out of a gun, and they were all calling other cities, and they were asking the hard questions and then answering each other's questions. So thanks to them. But yeah, for as far as staff goes, you know, one of my goals for the year was to look at this and give a recommendation from the commit, with the committee's help, to you about what your thoughts were. If you want us to continue to move forward with it, you know, I think it's, like Jay said, we're right at the go, no-go, where it's probably time to literally start looking at the price of the equipment and putting it all together and talk about legally what we would need to do to set up an ordinance. But I think you need to keep in mind that we will continue to come to you for recommendations. And as Chuck brought up, Commissioner Munsell, all of this will be done in public, and we have public input at every meeting, so the public process would continue. People can weigh in on it. But I think probably the next big step is to sit down and really put some harder numbers to things. And now that you've kind of, maybe the scope is where we could use a little help. To us, it seemed like the easy button was, let's look at the first part of this being residential and commercial trash collection on a weekly basis. The other things are all very attractive and they all need to be done, but, you know, you obviously need to walk before you can run and blah, 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 blah. So I think that would help, and I don't know if I've heard a clear scope, but it sounds like at this point, our recommendation to you would it be okay to look into the residential and commercial weekly trash collection business and see about the steps to setting up a utility that would do that, what that budget would look like, what the manpower would look like, and what kind of the operating rules. Are we in alleys? Are we in the front of streets? Are we doing it every day? Are we doing it, you know, how would that work? I think we would be able to.
Would a motion look like, we would move to have a feasibility study to continue to explore a municipal waste management option?
Well, I don't think.
I don't think you
continue
need to take any
explore
action.
Is the right thing we should do. I think that,
Yeah.
you know, we move ahead. You know, if we're gonna do this, then let's move ahead and get it done. The city needs it, the people need it, and I am tired of trying to figure out who my trash hauler is, to be honest with you. For the past year, I've had 3 or 4. They change, they buy out, they do this, they do that, they pick it up, they don't pick it up. You know, sooner or later, we're gonna have to, you know, fish or cut bait.
You will have ordinances before you if we move down the road to actually enact this. So at this point, I don't think you need to take any action unless any of you are like, absolutely do not come back to me with a recommendation, and then we'll have to probably take a vote on that. But if you all want us to bring you a recommendation for the ordinances and the legalities of standing this up and what the budget would look like, then we would be happy to do it. I don't think we need a vote to do that.
And we're just talking about city-run trash service, that's it.
Versus-
At this point, not phase two, that could come later if that's
So
decided.
what is
Yeah, what is
phase two?
Well,
Says right
it
here.
says here in the reading, phase two, the collection of recyclable materials at customers' curbside, utilizing the expertise and capacity of the Southeast Kansas Recycle Center. Phase one, I think, Darren, is we talking about city running a trash utility. I'm all in favor of that.
Jay?
Yeah, well, Jay and I have already begged with the commission not to waste much, or the committee to not spend too much time on recycling because it's such a monstrous lift. So, yeah, I think at this point, we'd only be comfortable really focusing on, can we set up a trash utility in Pittsburgh that would work, that would handle it, residential and commercial trash. So if that's,
Jay, in the past, didn't we have a survey on things where the website or you had something you could go on and fill out a survey
We've done.
to see what people's thoughts are? I mean, I don't think there's anybody who's not for this, but just to get a feel for what people think and, you know, if you were willing to pay more for somebody to come pick up your brush, that would be, you know, they would at least know that there was options out there that with this, I don't think it's gonna be a problem, but do we know what the people think too? Not
I
just
think it's fair, we could put out a survey.
something simple,
that-
you know, not anything major, but just something simple
About what
that,
kind of services they're looking for and what they would like.
kinda like when we had the Block 22 things where you had the Post-it notes and just a spitball session where you find out what it is people are for or what they're, you know, there are people who like their haulers, but there are people who definitely wanna see Pittsburgh clean. And, in a perfect world, you'd have the magic wand and you go, whoop, and it'd all be taken care of, but
Haven't ever found that magic
no.
wand.
And so I just wondered to get some idea from the people to see what they wanna do. I
I
think
also
probably
think-
more so people would be for it.
I also think it's important to remember that, I mean, the people of Pittsburgh elect us to represent them. So I'm not sure about, I mean, I'm not opposed to a survey. I wonder about how wide a survey gets spread. You know, I mean, how, you have to really be looking for that survey.
Well, as long as it was promoted,
to get a
we've had
response.
surveys in the past and they've seemed to work pretty decent.
I think, if I could interject, I think we'll add, this is not a new concept. So there's best practices for residential, for cities running trash collection. I think what we could do is put out a survey that just simply says to what Jay said, what are your thoughts about, would you be willing to pay, I mean, one thing that really interests me is, would you be willing to pay a fee of, what, $3 or $5 if you could call the city and once a month, we would pick up a mattress and a couch and a recliner or whatever you had? I mean, those are, I think, are good things to know. So I do think a survey to ask some clarification questions. I would hate to survey everybody about what are your thoughts on a trash utility,
Right.
because
No,
it's just so huge.
No, not a trash utility,
But if we could get some specific, we
prices,
could probably
at
do
least,
some
when
specific.
people know what it is they're talking
The
about.
committee seems to be nodding up and down, so I think.
Right, well, and I do think we need to probably go a little bit further down the road of pricing it out before we can go to the people and say, this is, for this much money, would you be willing? So we need to know
Sometimes they
for
weigh
sure.
the fact of, I'd have to get a
I
truck,
think
I'd
that's a
have to
good
go pick
idea,
it
the
up, and,
citizens should know, like you said,
How much
what
it's
this
gonna
cost could be.
We'll work on it. I mean,
So that can be part of what you're working on, so.
we'll come back to you with a recommendation in a couple of months.
Well, I mean, we'll have to do specifications for the vehicles and all the other equipment. I mean, it's gonna take a little bit to do all that,
so
till
these
we get a price.
preliminary estimates,
Very preliminary. Yeah, we looked at what other cities are using, the kind of equipment they're using, and made estimates based on that.
Do you have a time frame if this does go through, how long will it be before we start doing it?
Oh, it would, well, I mean, it wouldn't be before next year.
Next year?
Yeah, it wouldn't.
I would have said 6 months, but Jay's much smarter than me, so.
no pressure.
No.
I think it's important.
But it's already May, so that's about a year.
I mean, we could,
Yeah.
but it's next year.
I
about
think
it.
it's important to clarify that right now, everyone should have trash service. I think
Yes.
there's people that don't know that they are supposed to have trash service.
There you go, education.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
it's definitely confusing.
It would be nice to know that, what the ordinances are too, just like you had on TV the other night about parking in yards and things like that. you need trash service. You need to put your can back after they pick it up, and yes, the city is looking into this, so yes, I'm all for it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
the
you
committee.
to the
Thanks,
committee.
Denise.
Yes,
And the committee.
thanks Denise.
Did you have the same thing?
Oh, no, no, I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
As long as I'm here, though, I will make a plug for our Earth Day celebration on April 20th. Invite you and the whole community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
All right, consider the following. Item A, property and liability insurance renewal. Consider staff recommendation to renew the city's property and liability insurance with the EMC Insurance Company for the period beginning April 1, 2024 and concluding on April 1, 2025. Approve or disapprove staff recommendation.
Mayor and Commissioners, so EMC has been our insurance provider since 2013. As you mentioned, the policy would go from April to the end of next March. We reviewed our policy this year with a focus on cyber, of course, because we had that cyber attack. And that was the first time that we had insurance and had to utilize that insurance. So we had a good example to go back and make sure that we were properly insured with everything that was involved in that kind of a breach. We also have a growing fleet, so we've got, it's one thing to insure the old fleet that we used to have. When you start adding a dozen cars, you need to make sure that the new fleet is properly insured. So we took a hard look at that. We've adjusted for the wind and hail deductible, which everybody in this community is familiar with our storms and how that's been, they seem to be increasing the amount of hail that we get. That dropped our premium by $24,663. We also adjusted the vehicle deductibles that I mentioned earlier from a $1,000 deductible. You can't really do anything to a new car that nowadays for $1,000 except maybe put gas in it. So we increased that to $3,000. And by doing that, we also saved premium of over $17,000 on that. We definitely, I could list all the cyber coverage enhancements that we did, but for the most part, in general, we went from about $250,000 on a lot of those things up to $1 million. So we have we're much better protected than we were. The current year policy is $650,000. The recommended renewal is $660,000, so it's a change of about $9,300 or 1.4%. So that's what you get when you reduce that premium, but you have to add the premium back for the increased cyber that we have. We usually get a dividend check from EMC of about 10% of our premium. So if our premium's about a little over $600,000, we usually get a check of about $60,000 back, which is a really nice perk for being with EMC. Brandon Green is our current broker. He's done a good job. He had EMC actually come down for the first time. I met with their underwriters and folks. They came and did a risk assessment of the city a couple of months ago. So the policy before you is the same carrier. Brandon, I think, you can't really lose track of Brandon, but I can't see him behind the big podium. But if you have any questions, be happy to answer them, and appreciate his work and EMC for offering this good deal this year.
Any questions?
I would move to approve the property and liability insurance renewal.
Second.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the property and liability insurance renewal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, nay? Motion carried. All right, item B, Osafino LLC, right of first refusal. Consider staff recommendation to approve a 6-month right of first refusal with Osafino LLC for the 15 acres immediately north of Apex Stages in the city's airport industrial park to allow Osafino LLC time to coordinate a potential project.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. It's still early in the process, but as the memo states, we are working with an economic development prospect regarding property in the city's airport industrial park. We're far enough along in the process that the company has asked us to enter into a right of first refusal for 15 acres, as you see on the screen here, just north of Apex Stages. What that does is it essentially lets them know that the property's not going to be purchased out from under them, which unfortunately happens sometimes with economic development projects. But this would essentially lock that property up for 6 months, gives them an opportunity to get all their financing in order and logistics. It's a big enough project that Evergy would need to actually make some improvements out in the airport industrial park, so it gives Evergy a little bit of time to see what would be required in order to serve this customer. So the agreement that you have in front of you essentially, again, just locks that property up for 6 months and allows the prospect to get their arrangements made. They did give us $3,000 in earnest money that if they were to proceed with the purchase of the property, that would be applied to the price of the property. But that's essentially what you have before you. I'm not able to give all the details at this point, but would be happy to share any information that I can.
6 months.
Who
6
is
months.
Osofino?
Osofino is the company that the company asked to officially be the one that would enter into the legal agreement with the city.
Is this the Development Partners LLC?
Correct.
Okay, out of Houston?
Correct.
Okay.
So
They were
there-
founded 5 years ago?
Okay.
Okay. But, so what they'll do is go out and look for somebody to utilize that property?
No, sir. They're representing the economic development prospect that we've been working with. So we know who we're working
Okay.
with, but it's Osofino that they chose
They're
to
the
be on
intermediary.
the paperwork. Correct.
If they need more than 6 months, does this allow for an extension? Or is 6 months the usual time frame?
Henry would be able to answer that, but if needed, we would come back to you and just ask for an extension if they needed a little bit more time.
Any other interest in that land?
Not currently. No, ma'am.
Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the right of first refusal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Blake. Item C, fees and charges, Parks and Recreation. Consider staff recommendation to approve the proposed changes to the Parks and Recreation Department fees and charges. Toby?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We do an annual review and with the staff and with finance and Darren, and we've recommended these changes to compensate for obviously increased labor cost, operational cost, chemical fees. We compare our local facility with other local facilities to try to make sure that we keep an affordable product for our users. We don't want to price anybody out of using our facilities. So any questions you got, I can answer.
So I think it's also important that you have an advisory board that was.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Are any of these that you eliminated, you consider grandfathering people in?
I think that, presently, like one of those items, I think there's 3 or 4 people, and if they're currently using that product or renewing, I think we can honor that. I think that would be the right thing to do. And just as long as they keep renewing, we'll honor that, but we won't allow any more new ones to be sold.
Okay, thank you.
Toby, I had a question on the youth. Is that 18 and under, or under 18?
Yeah,
And then senior would be, are you proposing to move, it's currently 55 plus, but are you moving it to 62 plus?
62,
For
yeah.
everything, for the green fees and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your mini golf course fees are very low
We're-
for a brand-new facility.
I know, and we discussed that, and I actually had the PHS launch kids do some research, and, we can't charge Branson prices, because we don't have Branson here, and I want to make it sure it's available. I
Sure.
mean, there's a lot of people that $10, that might be what they can afford to take their kid golfing. I don't want to price people out of our
Sure,
product.
sure.
So,
And the beauty of it is, we didn't use taxpayer money to build that course, so
Yeah.
we don't have to go after that right now. But we do
Right,
need to
right.
keep it in an endowment, we need to take care of that course,
Yeah.
so it doesn't turn into the other one.
Yeah.
No offense to the other one,
it happens.
but we may not have taken the best care of that.
Any other discussion or questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the increase in fees and charges. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carried. Item D, This disposition of bids, Southwest Industrial Park Utilities Project. Consider staff recommendation to award the bid for the Southwest Industrial Park Utilities Project to the low bidder, Jeff Asbell, Excavating and Trucking Incorporated of Carl Junction, Missouri, based on the bid of $640,328.39.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So, the location of this project is out by Heritage Tractor in our Southwest Industrial Park. With growing need, with the expansion of Heritage Tractor, the prospect in our Southwest Industrial Park, we identified a need to go ahead and get sanitary sewer at this location. When we put the casino force main in, we're gonna be able to tie this lift station. We'll have a gravity sewer that wraps around the north and west side of these properties. It will be able to tie into our sanitary force main. Additionally, we went ahead and tied a 8-inch water line that will connect to the 16-inch water main that feeds the casino and wrap this property as well, just to have water service and some continuity that feeds into our service going west on Country Club Road. So, that's what this project consists of. There is another part of it that we're doing some of the control wiring, with our contractor just to keep that in-house and under control. But, this is the award. We had 7 bidders. It's a good bid day. Happy to see that many bidders. So, we've touched base with, Asbel, and they have the lift station, the components that we need, and, reputable contractors, so we're ready to move. We made a recommendation along with Earl's on going ahead to make the recommendation to award this project to them. Their estimated start date is about 45 days.
45 days. It's amazing how the bids are all over the place.
I know.
They all get the same packet, and they all
get
come
the
up
same
with.
packet.
And it's important to note, we want to give credit where there's credit. Heritage Tractor and the individual that's developing the other industrial site have agreed to go thirds with us. So the city will obviously front this money, and Matt and his crews are fantastic at bidding it. And you can see the work to get the project as low as it is. But for the taxpayers, it's always good to know that we're not just putting in sewer for, I mean,
Sure.
the responsibility for development's usually on the developers unless we can help them. In this case, everybody came together and gave us a pretty friendly way to do this without, spending $1 million. So hats off to Matt and his crew, though. They got it designed and got it out to bid quickly, and that's a lot of bidders. Something went right.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the bids for the Southwest Industrial Park Utilities Project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Matt, before you leave, I got a question.
Yes.
What's going on with, I guess it's whatever you call it, stormwater catch basin on Rouse between, is it 23rd and 24th?
22nd and Rouse.
22nd Rouse?
So we had a water main break underneath that curb inlet. We had to remove that curb inlet. I have a new curb inlet ordered, supposed to be here next week. As soon as we get that back, we'll put those concrete panels back and reset that. We've been waiting on a new curb inlet to come in to replace that.
So did you have to move the main from
We'll
under there?
adjust the storm box back so that we can dig down on the water line next time, so.
So it'd be moved, you can get to the water line without removing it?
But that box was setting up over the top of our 12-inch water main when it went down, so it's a bad deal. So, but I have a new box coming, should be here next week, and our crews will get that taken care of, and put back and fix the curb and gutter and the concrete panels.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt. Item E, Fire Department equipment purchase. Consider staff recommendation to waive the city's formal bid process to approve the purchase of 53 Scott X3 Pro SCBA's from the Feld Fire in the amount of $520,368.79, utilizing public safety sales tax funds. Good evening, Chief.
Chief left.
Chief's gone. He's out. Save the best for last, Chief.
Just double checking, making sure that I was gonna be able to plug this in someplace here. There we go. All right, good evening. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. What we are looking to do is update our SCBA's. Our current ones are at the 10-year mark right now. And in 5 years, they will be essentially expired. We will have to renew them at that point. By going ahead and renewing now, we are able to get some trade-in value because they will sell them to a smaller department, get some value back on them. And if this thing,
And Chief, for the benefit of those who might not know what it's self-contained breathing apparatus, your air pack. correct?
yes, sir, and I want to go through that right now, if I can figure out how to operate this thing.
You getting close?
Help is on the way.
Ah, perfect.
Anybody? Bueller?
There we are. There we are.
I never get used to that.
All right.
You forgot the U in that.
Not scuba, but very similar. So essentially, going through here, and I'm gonna just explain a little bit about what these are and our use for them. In the incidents we use, we obviously can't go in and breathe that air, so we bring our own air in with us. Very, very important piece of equipment. And what we're looking at here is a model, it's the Scott X3 SCBA. It fills at 5,500 PSI, which we currently use a compressor that fills it at that. The cloth components on this pack, as opposed to our old packs, are removable. That way we are able to clean them. And the PFAS, getting all of that stuff off is essential to our health after the fire service. So that was a big perk for us on doing that. These packs have also been redesigned for comfort and function. Not as hard on the guys' backs as they are working. Two new capabilities, these are the electronic PAR capability and the asset tracking. At this point in time, we're not looking at turning on the PAR, which is personal accountability report. Basically, it would always tell you this pack is moving, this pack this person is okay. But the asset tracking is what we are looking at, where we are able to essentially point a camera at the structure from the outside and see exactly where every firefighter is. This becomes very important with the situation of a downed firefighter, and if you're having to look for somebody who may be lost or unconscious and they can't report back to us radio-wise. But this is the harness, this is the full package here. To talk a little bit about it, we are wanting to go to a smaller, lighter bottle. It would have a 45-minute rating as opposed to 1 hour. When these guys, they're working and they're in shape, a 60-minute bottle lasts a long time, or it can last a very short time. So that 15 minutes is pretty negligible, depending on how hard you're working, how hard you're breathing, that sort of thing. But the big thing with it is, as you can see, is it's a lot smaller. That's less weight these guys are carrying around and working for the extended periods of time. Again, there's no change in our bottle filling procedure. This last time that we bought bottles, we had to buy a compressor with them that would work with those bottles. We don't have to do that at this point in time. We're also looking at quick change bottles. So when it's cold, it's wet or whatever, you're not trying to unscrew something that could be screwed down real tight. It's a simple 2-motion pull and they come apart. Now, it's obviously safeguarded so that it doesn't come apart on its own. You have to do a 2-action pull on that. Aside from this is the new face piece that comes with it. The majority of our masks are the same age as our air packs. They're 10 years old. They have survived for 10 years because we do take very good care of them. Our maintenance on them is very extensive, but at the same time takes its toll. So we're looking at replacing these masks. The other advantage of these are a wider field of vision and a modular design. That modular design allows us to fix masks as needed, as opposed to replacing the whole thing and buying a new one. The dual voice emitters on the side, what they have found is that having basically talking ports on either side allows for a very clear communication route. We were using amplifiers. Those ended up kind of being a money pit. We were replacing batteries, we were replacing electrical components. Without that, we still get the clear communication without the cost of putting batteries in these things and replacing them all the time. A big portion of what we are looking for is the Pack Tracker handheld receiver. One concern as an incident commander on every situation is somebody getting hurt becoming unconscious, getting lost in a fire. What this unit does is it allows me to stand at the outside. I can point this thing at the structure and it tells me where each and every pack is. It'll lock on to one device and it'll say, you know, pack number 3. And as I get closer to it, it tells me that I'm getting closer, and you can essentially triangulate where it's going. We're looking for 2 of these, one for the outside and one for our rapid intervention team, which is the people who we call in our emergency. If we're down, they're the crew outside ready to go in and get our own out. So if we're able to have 2 of those, we can definitely triangulate where we're going and get there as quickly as possible to pull them out. These obviously, they have to be charged up. They come with a charger that goes in the truck. It's always ready, always available. So
Do you have to be certified to use those?
those cameras,
No, the tracker.
the track, it would come with an extensive amount of training. There's not necessarily a certification process, but we're not gonna just hand it to the newest guy and say, go get him, buddy.
Sure.
It's definitely something that we'll have to take time and use to get used to and figure out the nuances of their range and how they read.
So the PAR that you were talking about, is that if you're not moving for 3 minutes, it starts an alarm? You're not gonna utilize that?
That is exactly it. Excuse me.
Oh, I thought maybe that was one of them.
The electronic PAR allows you from your pack to basically click a button and say, yes, I am okay.
Oh.
The reason we're not turning it on at this point in time, the hardware is there. It's in every pack they put out. But the reason we're not turning it on at this time is paying for that software and the subscription to use it.
I got you.
If at a later time we decide that that's really a necessary thing, I will come before you and ask again. But right now, we don't feel that it's as essential as the equipment of being able to find somebody very quickly. So, the last major part of this is what we call our RIT bags, Rapid Intervention Team Bags. And they are there stationed in the front yard with a team ready to go in. And it's essentially an additional air bottle. It's a mask, and it's got the straps to go in, somebody who may be down, go in and rescue and pull them out. We put one of these on each one of our trucks because you never know which truck is going to be there first, and that's one of our initial arriving driver's duties is to have this out and set ready for the RIT team. They turn it on, everything is ready to go. So, last little things, the strap that allows us to turn the air pack harness into an actual lifting and lowering harness so you can come in and out at height. The other thing it's used for is like a ladder belt. When we're up on an aerial, you hook this thing around and say you slip, lose your footing, whatever, you're essentially tied up there so that you're not any big injuries. The mask bag, that's just investment protection. When we're not using our masks, they go in a bag. That way they're not getting scratched up, banged up, that sort of thing. So, if anybody has any questions on anything I mentioned or didn't mention, feel free to ask me and I will do my best to answer.
That RIT team, is each ship have a RIT team?
Yes, and generally how we have been operating as the RIT team is the third arriving unit, the last truck that gets there. They're able to set up, get the equipment they need, whether it's hand tools or power tools, along with this bag, and they are there on the outside. Now, they're not standing there. They're able to move around and do some outside functions as necessary, as long as they are not getting up on a roof or going into the structure where they are still available to
Change bottles?
You know, they can be changing bottles. They can be monitoring conditions to the sides or the rear of the house. What our SOG states is that at least one team member is there in front and is able to see the front of the scene. Again, while they're there, they're still able to change bottles or, you know, pull a little bit of hose on the outside to assist the teams that are inside.
So how do you come up with RIT team? Is it something that You have training for?
We train on it, actually quarterly now, is mandatory. It's one of the more fun trainings because you do get to go in and do hands-on stuff. You can do it inside, outside, wherever. So the guys do enjoy doing it. It is a national concept. It is a NFPA standard that you have this RIT team on every, fire, actual live fire incident where there is a structure fire going on.
So everybody's trained to be a RIT team member?
Yes.
Because you don't know who's gonna be on duty.
Exactly right, exactly right.
And do you have a full department now, or?
We are 3 people down at this point. April 13th, we have our next testing, and I believe we're up to about 12 or 14 applicants. So we'll be testing at that point in time and hopefully filling our ranks.
I
So,
remember you used to have 60 and 70 for one job.
I know.
It's a shame, but, hey, thanks, Taylor.
any other questions?
Feld, a vendor that you're used to?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the pricing for the breathing equipment is set by the manufacturer, by 3M Scott. They meter it out to dealers who have territories, and the dealers have no say in the price of the equipment. So it is, I'm not gonna say a single source, but it is set by the manufacturer. So if we looked at another company, it would be the exact same price.
But you've used Feld before?
Yes,
Yeah.
we've used Feld. We have a great relationship with them. If something's broke down, they get it trucked down to us quickly.
What's the turnaround on, is it supply? Do they have, will you get these if?
We are gonna look at about a 12-week delivery time.
Very good. Any other questions?
It's very easy to get replacement parts if you ever have problems like with masks or
Yes.
damage.
Their repair technician is actually, I think he's located around Neodesha. So he's very close. He's in our area quite a bit. All the county departments around use him, so he's always in servicing
Good to
and
know.
maintaining stuff.
Good to know.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the 53 Scott X3 SCBA. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. By the way, aye. I don't think I said aye. All right, non-agenda reports and requests.
Sarah has one.
Hello again. Mayor and Commissioners, I just wanted to let the community know about an event that we have coming up this Thursday evening at Root Coffee House. For anyone who doesn't already know, in 2026, Pittsburgh is turning 150 years old, and America is turning 250. So a committee has put together some ideas for how to celebrate the whole year in 2026, and we would like the community's input. So this Thursday, March 28th, from 5:30 to 7 at Root Coffee House, we are going to have Plan Pitt 150. You can drop in, you can jot down your ideas, meet the committee members, and learn more and get involved in that effort at that event. So we're excited to launch it and get everybody's creative ideas. A spitball session, if you will.
Yes.
Thanks.
Darren?
I
Anything?
think that's all from staff.
All right. I'd like to just real quickly recognize Chase Cochran. Chase had been in the audience all night. He's working on his Eagle Scout badge, so thank you for sitting through a community meeting or a commission meeting, so.
I'd like to recognize his dad, who is now the representative for one of our congressmen, Jake LaTurner, represents Jake LaTurner in the Pittsburgh area. Good job, Jacob.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. All right, so Pittsburgh Positive. This week, I would like to recognize Monica Holmes, who is the executive director for Big Brothers Big Sisters. She does an incredible job with that program, helping youth in our community find mentors to help them and spend a few hours a week or a month with them. And it's a great program. It's been around for a long time, but Monica does a great job with a very positive attitude on that. So thanks to Monica for all she does with that program. And that is all I have. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
It's like everybody's in a stupor.